Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Janine Luby. And here we are into February. I hope you all are doing well. As before I hit the record button, my guest and I were just talking about our own following of the craziness that's out there in the world. And I will speak for myself when I say, hey, allow this fun conversation to distract you if you are like me and you're spending a little too much time diving into what's going on. I think it is, I keep telling people, I think it's important that we stay informed because I get that people are tired and they don't want to see stuff. I think it is important to stay informed because this is our country, right? And we want to be concerned about our future, our finances, our wealth, our health, the people we love. So that is important to stay informed. But we have to be careful of boundaries. And I'm only sharing that because that's what's going on with me right now. I've gotten myself in a place where I've gotten dark and deep. And I want to think of my friend Gab Bonesso, who's been a frequent guest on my podcast, where she is happy now. And as she said, she is not going to let anyone take her happy away. Hope is resistance. And so I'm trying to remember her and channel her on days that I'm going a little too dark and say, hey, I want to keep bringing laughter and light to people. And that's what I'm going to do my best. But I am human. So, yeah, until I get that computer chip put in, which could be in the future. But for now, I have to modulate. But this week's conversation is going to be fun. And I know that you'll take something away, you'll learn from it. This person that I have on tonight, Christine Souza, has been a guest twice before, but it's been a while. So we do have a lot to catch up on. Christine was on a few years ago. We were talking about a couple different things that she has gotten into, but now she's about to release a book on February 25th. So it's a great time for us to catch up. So I'm really excited. Let's get into this. Hey, Christine.
So
Uh-oh,
excited
your
to be back.
volume. There you go.
Oh,
Okay, we hear. Let's try that again. You there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. For a second, I
Okay.
couldn't. I'm like, oh no. So welcome.
Technology, I swear. Thank you for having me back. I'm so excited. I love listening to your podcast, and now I like to be a guest again. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it's been a minute, right? I feel like for before, like I was like, I had you on and then I had you on a second time, and I'm like, gosh, I haven't seen Christine in a while. We have to connect. And when you post it, Christine and I actually how we got to know each other, I believe was through Instagram. And so, it's I'll take this brief moment to do my mini TED talk and say that I know there's a lot of stress on social media, and that is true. You can be bullied on there by even by adults. You can have FOMO. You could do a lot of negative stuff, but you can also have good connections if you get into groups that are safe and things that you like to do, communities online, or if you just follow people that you're like, hey, I like to do that. And I think that's how Christine and I somehow got connected on Instagram. And it was really cool because Christine and I have talked twice on the podcast. We kind of keep in touch sometimes through Instagram, and you can do that. So I want to encourage people, don't be afraid because there are some great ways to connect. And Christine is someone that I've been so excited that I was able to connect, but that's how we got to know each other.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You were doing 40 days of running for Lent, and I was like, I need to get back running, and unfortunately, my body does not want me to run any longer, and I'm accepting that. It's sad because like running is an amazing community. And I was really like using you as inspiration. I'm like, she's running every day. I can do it. But I also live in Albany and my whole driveway is ice right now. So, like I'm stepping out the door right now is dangerous, let alone trying to go for a run. But yeah, I agree. I think that, you know, it's like anything else. Like when you find, like, if you go out to, a happy hour or coffee shop or whatever, and you see someone, you're like, hey, you're drinking the same coffee as me. Hey, like, let's chat. It's the same thing with social media. You might find someone that you resonate with. You might find someone you're like, you're not for me. Thanks. So, you take it with a grain of salt, Instagram, you're seeing people's highlight reels. Most of the time, at least for me, I'm just sending people, funny memes that I think, will make them laugh. Or, I have a lot of friends who are moms right now who are like, exhausted all the time. And I'm like, hey, here you go. Here's something to make you laugh. You know, um, it's my new form of communication. Back in the day, people wrote, long love letters, and I just, I send a meme.
Hey, if it makes them smile. I should say too, Christine has, I mean, you have a turtle, Cuff, right? So you'll
Yeah,
post
Cuff.
pictures of him. And I mean, how could you not like this cute little turtle? See these pictures.
Cuff is a celebrity in her own right. So she's I actually write about my experience how I rescued Cuff. Cuff is a rescue turtle. I rescued her from the mean streets of Manhattan. There was a woman who was, I don't want to give too much away, but there was a woman who was selling her on the side of the street, and she was giving them away for soup, and I'm like, I got $20. Well, how many turtles can I get? Let me save them. And so I brought two turtles home, and one unfortunately passed, but I still have Cuff, and she is a celebrity. She sends a Christmas card every year, like with her picture on it. And, like people like will text me, be like, hey, I moved. Like, tell Cuff I need my Christmas card, And I mean, I've had her for 23 years. Yeah, 23 years. And just picked her up off the street, saved her life. And we've sent probably of those 23 years, I think we've sent about 20 Christmas cards with her picture on it.
Aw.
People send me their kids like them. My kid,
Now
crazy turtle lady.
they can live to be quite old, right? Turtle, well, or is it, I
Yes.
know tortoises, I think, can be like what, 80 or 100?
Tortoises have a much longer shell life. Um,
I
I'm not as funny as you, but um
like
uh
that one.
but yeah, but and like it depends on the environment and things like that. I don't know how old she is. I'm making an assumption that, she was a baby. I mean, she was, about the size of a half dollar when I met her. Now she's probably like the size of like a shoe. Um, and I've done like research, different things. Like she has a relatively small environment that she lives in. But like I've tried to expand it. I actually have a friend who like helped me like put some platforms in and stuff. So it's a little bit bigger now, but she's getting up there. She's getting up there. So I keep an eye on her. Like she's definitely in the winter months, you can tell it takes a toll on her. It takes a toll on me too. I
I
not a
hear you
fan of
there.
winter. Yeah, but so she's not swimming or splashing as much right now. And like I cut back on her feeding, which is hysterical because my nieces love to come over and feed Cuff. Like they're like that's the first thing they ask when it's like family dinner at my house. They're like, "Oh, when can we feed Cuff?" And I'm like, can we eat?" So I'm like, it's okay. Like they usually feed her kind of late, but they each take a turn putting the food in the tank, and they like sit like this, like leaning up against the glass with their like little noses, trying to see if Cuff's gonna eat their treat. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Are turtles, let me ask, and I mean, every animal's, a lot of times, you'll be like, oh my gosh, people have that as a pet, but you don't realize sometimes certain animals that you wouldn't expect are really connected to, their person. Are turtles like affectionate at all? Like, and is there like a connection where like Cuff might come out and like, maybe get like do a nudge or like a fun bite on your finger that's affectionate, or I don't know, how do turtles communicate
I do
love?
not keep my fingers near Cuff's face at all.
Okay.
That is, I feel
Okay.
like that's a danger. She's kind of a badass, she will be responsive, like, like she'll like look at you and like swing her neck around and like if you're talking to her and stuff, like it's almost like a judgment look. Like she's just gonna be like, oh, what do you want? But like I definitely I like to think we have a connection. I don't know, maybe it's just in my head because she doesn't talk back, but she definitely like reacts like when she hears my voice and things like that. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Cause you never, I mean, I see sometimes I'll watch these specials just to learn a little something extra. And I forget, oh my gosh, where the heck was I when I was watching something? Oh, I think I was pet sitting about a month or so for a friend who didn't have like all the channels, so to speak. Like, and I was just like, okay, what's this? And I was watching a show about different animals that you wouldn't expect to have as pets, I think. And they had like they went through the snakes and they went through like sugar something, so the bats or the marsupial, like all kinds of different animals. And I'm like, huh, that's interesting. So I learned a little bit, but I was like, okay, you never know. I don't know. And because I've never had a turtle, so I didn't know, but that's interesting. And I'm sure I can understand your niece's that, you know, of course feeding is a fun thing for kids to do.
Oh yeah, they're fascinated. They're fascinated. The little one, so she's the younger one is 2.5, and the older one will be 4 in March. And the little one will be like, cuff, cuff. And I'm like, what? And Karen's like, she's saying cuff. She's talking about the turtle. And I'm like, oh, oh, I'm like, okay, like, so yeah, yeah. But yeah, they're fun. They're my little spaghetti monsters. So
I was going to say
and
that's
that's who.
another joyful thing that you post about, and I'm sure I saw your dedication in your book is to your nieces, but you post a
Yes.
lot, and they you seem like you are honestly a great aunt to them or aunt. A lot of fun photos that you post. They seem to be a great source of joy for the for both of you.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the major reasons I moved here. My sister, she got married right before the pandemic, and then, we went to lockdown, and people were home, and so her and my brother-in-law decided that they wanted to start a family, and they had their first baby, and I just she just busted my heart open, and I just wanted to be around that little mush, my little smush face. And my mom really, she really wanted to be with her grandchildren, but she didn't want to, excuse me, she didn't want to move unless, like, she knew I would be okay. And I'm like, well, my job's going remote, and I can move too. And so we all moved up here. So my mom and my stepdad actually live like around the corner from my sister. So the kids will walk over like after daycare, and they'll go, and they, like, they ask my stepbrother lives in the downstairs of my parents' house. And so they'll be like, well, Uncle Brother, do you have cheese balls? And they'll like go and, like, knock on his door, and, like, he'll give him a snack, and they'll, go upstairs, and they play with the dog, and they just, and my mom is like in her glory. Like, that's all, she just, my mom wanted to be a mom, and then she wanted to be a grandma. So, and unfortunately, she was grandma to a turtle for quite a while until my sister, decided to have kids. But and now she just, she eats it up. She loves it. And one of the things that my sister really wanted when we moved up here, we have family dinner. So, like, growing up, my sister and I, like, so I'm 8 years older than my sister. And so I grew up with both our parents. And then as my sister came along, and then, my parents got divorced. And so my sister didn't have, like, always family dinner. Like, sometimes she'd be with my grandma, or something, she'd come home, after school, and, maybe we'd all be like, my mom and I would be home. But so, because, I'm here, my mom's here, my brother-in-law's mother's here. We, make the effort to have dinner together on Sunday nights. And so then this way the kids get to spend time with us, and, we get to, like, see them grow. And because it's important, like, family is important. So, so it's one of my top blessings for moving to the capital region. Moving, because I moved here a little over 3 years ago. And as an adult, as an older adult, like, I moved here when I was, uh, how old am I now? 42. I moved here when I was 42. I'm 46 now. Um, I have a remote job, so I don't, like, interact with people in an office. I'm not married. I don't have, like, a, boyfriend, significant other. I don't have children, and I don't have a walkable pet. So, like, to interact and make friends and, like, meet people, like, it is a lot of effort and energy. And especially in a place where it's cold all the time. So people are always inside, bundled up. Like, even, like, when I worked in Manhattan, like, you'd always, like, bump into people on the street or commuting or whatever. Like, you have to, like, really make an effort to, like, interact with a stranger. Um, and I'm very extroverted. So it's it's been a lot of energy, but it's good, and it makes for good stories. And um surprisingly, there are a lot of transplants in my area. Like a lot of people who moved up from the city come up to Albany, and so we kind of like found each other a little bit. It was like, okay, I'm like, where have you found a bagel that might be half decent? Because nothing like a New York bagel, it really isn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, so bagels and pizza are the two things I miss the most.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah. Everyone has their thing before they move. Yeah. And I should say for listeners who may have not heard our conversations before. So Christine, as she mentioned, lived in Manhattan and she moved up to Albany, New York, and to be, close to her sister. So now it's a nice family unit there. And do you want to, I would love to get an update from you. I know when you were on before, we talked about a couple different things like coaching and we talked about oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm blanking on fragrance. What do you call it?
Oils,
That's it.
essential oils.
Oils, essential oils. I'm like
Yep.
fragrance. And we talked about that. So where are you at with that stuff? Is that something? And we also talked about your involvement in a women's group up there. So what's going on with
Yes.
all that good
Yeah.
stuff?
So I'm gonna be honest. 2024 was a really, really tough year for me. Um, I my job was starting an expansion. So originally I was hired to only handle a certain section, and my team ended up, getting bigger, and we like were rolling on a new system, and there was a lot of stuff going on, and so the demands of that role like totally increased. We had like a couple open heads, and there were a lot of challenges in my day-to-day job. On top of that, my dad wasn't doing very well. Uh he was ill for a while, and he ended up passing away last year. My mom had to have brain surgery.
Oh my goodness.
It was chaos, and her brain is fine. It's actually like this really I've learned so much about the body this year, I'll tell you. But she had to have a surgery that had to do actually with her ear canal, but they had to go into the brain, so it's considered brain surgery. And it's just like one thing after another, and I was just like, Calgon, take me away. It was a really, really challenging 2024. And with all the things that I've studied and I've leaned on throughout my life, like I just was just like, I have skills, I have it, like I can get through every day up until now. I've gotten through, I will get through today as well. But God really tested me. He really tested me in 2024. Um, and finally, like, after my dad passed, I was just kind of like, it was, I, I love my dad, you know, but it was almost a relief, because he had been really struggling for a
Mm.
while. And, like after that happened, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna, take the rest of the year to mourn. And, like I'm ready to put everything behind and start fresh. And I had written this book, and this book it had been something I had kind of like been working on over like the course of like 10 years.
Oh
And
wow.
I used, yeah, so it's not like it didn't just pop out of my pocket, like, and like, let's just try to um so back in the day, remember back in the day we were talking about Instagram. Do you remember MySpace?
I actually never had an account. I missed the whole MySpace thing. I went right to Facebook in 2009. I guess I was a dweeb. I was out of it.
So I worked for MySpace when Fox had bought it. So Fox Interactive Media had bought MySpace, and they tried to monetize it and the whole thing. And I worked for MySpace. And I actually, when I interviewed for the job, I didn't know it was MySpace. It's just Fox Interactive Media. And they needed someone who could do numbers, and I do numbers. And I'm like, oh, I can do that. And they're like, oh, by the way, you're gonna work for the MySpace division. And I'm like, so so part of that, when I was like working there, and I was there for like 6 years. And yes, I met Tom. For anyone listening, I met Tom. I do have a picture with Tom. That people ask me that all the time. But while I was there, I really kind of wanted to understand, because social media was like really starting to like blossom. And so there was a course that SUNY purchased, and it was a social media certification. I'm like, so I asked my manager, and he's like, yeah, sure, go for it. So one of the things that was part of the program was to learn to blog. And so I kept a blog for a little while. And then I got laid off from MySpace, and I'm like I just keep writing about the blog. And so I'd write little things here and there. And, like that summer I worked for my friend who had a bakery, and I worked at the farmer's market, and I met Natalie Portman. Like she bought a blueberry galette from me. Well, she didn't actually talk to me. It was very strange, but she was very, very pregnant. She would talk to her partner, Benjamin, and Benjamin would talk to me. And I even though I could hear her, wasn't like she was invisible, but it was like the weirdest thing. But like, it was at Stone Barns, which is like, if you've ever been to Westchester, it's like this beautiful property that the Rockefellers used to own. And they have like
Oh,
this like Michelin star restaurant there and stuff, but they had like this little farmers market on like Fridays and Saturdays. And so my neighbor would be like, hey, could you go work at the farmers market? Sure. So like I'd like sell cookies to celebrities. It was like the
ooh.
weirdest, it was the weirdest thing, but it was awesome. So like I met Natalie Portman, I met Carrie Russell. Those are like my two big ones. But there's like a lot of like celebrities that live in Westchester, so like I see people all the time. But that sounds so obnoxious. I'm sorry. Like I'm not like hanging out and rubbing elbows with celebrities, but just it happened to be like I could sell them cookies. but uh, but I kept like that was like one of my biggest blog posts was like, that, it got picked up by somebody like, some Natalie Portman fan club or something. Um, but like, so and like my friends loved it, and I'd like tell little stories and whatever. And so in 2023, I took this like self-publishing class while I was up here in Albany, and I'm like, okay, I want to learn about this. This will be interesting. And it was like to learn how to make low content books. And so I made like a little notebook, and it was about like, how I manifest. So like when I in the morning I would like sit and write like, I'm so happy and grateful, and like whatever my vision was, like whatever I was trying to achieve. And so I did it, and friends bought it and stuff, and it was like picked up a little bit. And one of my friends like, this is so cool, so good. But she goes like, but I thought you were gonna write like a real book. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, like you're such a good storyteller. You always tell these like crazy stories, and you have all these adventures and stuff. She's like, like you should write a real book. And I'm like, just gonna read that. Read it. Just gonna read it. Story. And I'm like, so I like thought about it, and I'm like, think about this. Like I ran it by like a couple of my friends, and they're like, oh yeah, Souza, you gotta do that. Like, yeah, that sounds great. So I'm like, what, like, like I'm like, where do I start? So my friend's like, well, go back to the blog. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. So I went back to the blog, and I pulled out like stuff that I liked and stuff. And then, it was like, 10 years ago. So I was like, yeah, like it was actually probably more than 10 years ago, probably like more like 15, about 15 years ago. So I'm like, let me just kind of see where this goes. And so like some stuff like I'm like, you can't use this anymore. And then some stuff I'm like, well, let's update this. Like, how do I feel about this now? And and then, kind of like playing with different ideas, and then bringing in my mindset work and my coaching and like all the things that I've learned over my life, and kind of putting it into like a muddled potpourri of crazy. I kind of feel like people are like, what's your book about? I'm like, it's about a little stuff. I'm like, basically, like, have you ever had a conversation with me? Kind of like having a conversation with me, because there's a lot of pop culture in there, because like I'm a big like movie nerd. There's a lot of mindset work, like staying positive and like focused on your goals, and there's a lot of self-care, and then there's like a lot of like personal introspective. Like I talk about my many experiences in the online dating world. Like
Ah,
it's not for me. It's not my thing. But like I have like done the apps and stuff, and I've seen like what people put out to the internet, and I'm like, dude, oh my God, how are you ever going to get a date with this profile? Like, what are you doing? So like one of my one of my essays is like a list of like all the things I've seen in like dating profiles. And like people think like online dating, like, oh, it's just like, like they think it's like Amazon. You just go and like, I'm just gonna buy a boyfriend, see you later. It's like, no, like it is like not anything like it. Like if you haven't done it,
I was going to say, if you've done it, and I haven't in a while, but when I did, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then I'm like, and I'm sure it's the same way, but like a with a little spin. Like I'm sure people see me and they're like, oh, look at she's past her prime. But like at the same time, like they missing teeth, like and like so I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Um it yeah, I do have a goal like this year. I'm my goal is to go on a date, like because I haven't been on a date in a while. So I'm like, I'm gonna make the effort to go on a date.
Let me ask
But
you,
it's
are you thinking of, so I know you're probably over with the online. So do you have a plan for how you think you see like going out and
you.
meeting someone, just hanging out in a coffee shop, or what are you thinking?
So I do. So there's actually, and you know what? I should introduce you. There is a little company here, like a flourishing company. It's called Micropolitan Matchmakers. The young woman who owns it is her name is Becky, and she puts on like little events around Albany, Schenectady, Troy, and like to help people mix and mingle and get together. So she's like got an event next week that I'm going to go to, like, and it's like fun things like she's doing like a dance class this week. I can't go to that one, but she's doing a dance class and she does happy hours, she does coffee hours, which I appreciate because like I always want to meet someone in a bar,
Mm.
like I want to like how long have you been sitting at that stool? Can you walk? Can you walk out the door? Can you do the straight line? Can we do the sobriety? That's like touch your nose. Um, so like, and yeah, like it's like not always like I'm not a huge drinker. Like I'll have a glass of wine. Get me in front of margarita, I'm good. But like I don't want to be with someone who's like, can't get through the day without a drink.
Yeah.
So going to a bar, I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
But coffee
Yeah. No, and I can
is like,
appreciate that. Yeah. In fact, there's here, and not the same thing, but similar because it's different relationships, but still relationships, networking. We have a group called NEPA Networkers, and I like the fact they do a lot of coffee meets, and they'll do them like maybe twice a month, and then they'll do a quarterly where it's at night because it is a different vibe completely when you're talking to someone over a cup of coffee at like these are 8 in the morning versus like 6, 7 at night where you had a glass or two of wine. Not that people are typically trashed at a networking thing, but it's different. It's just a different vibe. So I appreciate and I like what you're saying that she offers both. That's a good idea.
yeah. I think that's a huge thing. I mean, for anytime you're like meeting someone, like I get like, okay, maybe you have nerves and like, a glass of wine to like take the edge off. I get that. But at the same time, like, when I when I drink, my face turns bright red. Doesn't matter what it is. It's like as soon as the alcohol touches my tongue, it's like, and so, like I know I don't look my best when I've had like a glass of wine and my face is like red. But like cup of coffee, I only really have to worry about coffee breath. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, I much rather like have like a casual coffee date than, doing shots,
Yeah,
That's just
yeah.
asking for trouble. Just asking for trouble.
Yeah, yeah. Now there is something I remember. I mean, I haven't dated like I said in a while, but I did my share where it was a mix. A lot were like meeting for a drink or whatever, but I did do a lot where we met for coffee, and I think they're a little bit more low pressure. I felt a little bit more low pressure, and I think that gives you a little bit. It's just a different vibe, and so I can appreciate that. Well, that's a good idea then. So you already have a plan what you're gonna do, and I want to quickly pause and say we should tell people the name of your book is it last exit? No.
No, did I miss my exit?
Did I miss my exit? I'm sorry. Is it and okay, full transparency to the audience listening, and you can all boo me and say you suck, Janine, and it's true. So Christine sent me a PDF, and I apologize to her because I skimmed parts. I am a terrible. I've talked about this before online. I'm always saying I got good grades in school, and I'm a writer, and I write my own comedy and everything else, but I never have enjoyed reading. So I'm embarrassed about that fact. So I will read like magazine articles or things like that, but I did only like skim through, and I've apologized to Christine already, but you can feel free to like boo from your car, wherever you're listening. Janine, you suck. But okay, so did I miss my last exit? Okay.
Did I miss my exit? Did I miss my
Did I
exit? Yeah.
miss my exit? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you where you came up with the title. And I should say too for folks listening that if you're like me and you don't love like you're just someone that doesn't like to read long things, let's say. The great part about Christine and I were talking about this before I hit the record button that this is the kind of thing where you could pick up and read a chapter like out of order or whatever and you're still going to be entertained, you're going to enjoy it. But how did you come up with that name or what's that about?
So it it came to so my notebook that I there my like journal that I did is called Life is a Highway. And so I love the idea of a journey. That we talk about in writing like the hero's journey, like you go and there's a quest and something they've got to and there's some sort of transformation that happens along the way because like everyone focuses on happily ever after. But that's the end. That's the end. It's what happens along the way that brings you to that happily ever after, right? And so, you know, I don't fit the typical female model. I don't have a partner. I don't have kids. I'm 46 years old. I live by myself and have a turtle. It's not the normal, typical. I wouldn't say no. I'm not normal is not the word, but typical, heterosexual female vibe, right? And so, I often would say, I'm like, what did I do? Did I miss a turn? Where did I go wrong here? And I say that in jest because I don't think there's anything wrong with my life. Like I have a wonderful life. You know, are there days where I'm like, "Ugh, I'm home alone, blah? Yes, but majority of my life, 96% of it is a good life, and I'm happy. I'm content in it. We were just talking about it. Like if I don't meet someone, I'll be fine, you know. But would it be nice? Like I've got tickets to a play in a couple of weeks. I'm like, who am I gonna go with? I call my sister, be like, Karen, we're going to the show.
I
But
wish you
like
lived
it's
closer. I think we would have fun on some of these things. So
I do. Because like I feel like I was supposed to meet you because I did live in Scranton for a year. I went to Marywood for that one semester, well, 2 semesters. I actually saw that you were at Marywood the other day when you met a dog.
yes, yeah, I was at, and not to derail, but it's something I didn't do before because I don't have kids, and it's like so I wasn't parents. You have to go to these sporting events and things. I don't have children, but I did have on my podcast Tara Machaco, who is the head coach of the women's basketball at Marywood, and I had her on last year with the whole like Caitlin Clark when that was more focus on women's sports and finally getting their due, which is great and I follow her on Instagram, Tara, and it's like she posts when they're having their games, and I'm like, I want to go support this. I mean, I got my master's degree from Marywood, but still, it's so for anyone listening, like it's cool because you're supporting the university or the college or whatever, but you're showing support for the team, and I'm all about supporting women. So that was my second time going there, and as Christine mentioned, I had been walking. I live close to Marywood. I'd been walking a couple weeks earlier, and this gentleman had a dog who's in training, a service dog. She spends her weekdays, this program that I wasn't even aware of. She spends the weekday with prisoners. So they take care of the dog. I think it's great. I'm sure that's very helpful and therapeutic. And then on the weekends, this gentleman, Bill, has the dog and he introduced us to this lab Abby and she's such a sweetheart and then he brings her to the Marywood's basketball games so I got to see him on Saturday and she was there with her little jacket on she's in training so that's what Christine is referencing but yeah so yeah you went to Marywood but anyway I don't want to derail your story I just wish we lived closer to each other is what I wanted to say I'd go to that play with you.
Yeah, see? But I don't even know where I was talking. I was talking about having a partner. Oh, so the journey, right? So did I miss my exit? Is kind of like I asked myself, like, okay, I didn't follow this path. Did I miss a turn? Did I miss my exit? Like what happened that I'm on this different path from majority of my friends? And it's like it's still happening. Like one of my really good friends, she really wanted to have a baby, and she like was trying and trying, trying. She did like multiple rounds of IVF, and to the point where she wasn't even telling people anymore because it had not gone well so many times. And like One day she's like, I really need to come visit you. And I'm like, oh, well, I live here. Whenever you want to come, it's fine, whatever. And she was like really trying. And I actually didn't get to see her because she ended up having COVID but she was wanted to tell me that she was like 7 months pregnant at that point. And she just hadn't told anybody because she was so worried about all the challenges. And now, thankfully, God bless, she has a beautiful baby girl that she's just, now she's starting this amazing journey with this new baby. And it's still like, I'm like, okay, I'm like, well, she didn't follow the straight and narrow path per se, but now she's detoured to a different exit. And I'm like, okay, where is my exit? Or do I just keep going down this crazy road of what's gonna happen next? So, but I think that's like for everybody, like, whether did the exit where you got the husband and the 2.5 kids and the dog and the whole thing, like you're still on a journey, like you're still doing your thing. Like when I sit and I talk with my sister, like my sister's a really exhausted woman. She has a full-time job. She has two small children, like her children are under 4. And I say to her all the time, like, you're doing great. You're doing, she's like, and she has that, that mother's guilt because she is a full-time, she's a school psychologist. And so she has like a full-time job, but she also has these two, and she always feels like she's the heavy because like, she has to like, like lay down the law with the kids. And she's like, I'm just trying to raise like, emotionally normal children. I'm like, or emotionally aware children. I'm like, you're doing a great job. Like my nieces, you know, they're 2.5 and 4. Like, they're little, but they're amazing and they're good kids. I mean, they don't make anyone yell. And, I mean, maybe every now and then, like the little one, she gets a little crazy, but she she has this like strange obsession lately with like wolves. Like she's like, yeah, there was a wolf, Anstine. And I'm like, what wolf? And she's like, yeah, he's outside. Talking about. She like thinks that she's like, I saw it. I saw it. Okay. I'm like, okay, okay. But yeah, like I my nieces are they're really good kids. And I tell my sister all the time, she's like, doesn't believe it. And I'm like, Karen, I'm like, they are good and you're doing a great job and you're a great mom. And but I think we all just put like so much pressure on ourselves, as humans, not even as women, just as people, like just trying to like get through the day. And when you like, compare yourself to the Instagram reels and all that stuff, it's like, oh, but everyone struggles, everyone has their challenges, and that's what makes us human, that's what makes us people, and that is what the journey is about. It's about what are the ups and downs that you're going to go through in life, and how do you handle them, how do you react to them, like you know that's the fun part. So
Yeah. And I do think though that women put more pressure on ourselves. And I had coffee with someone today and we were just talking about like even just the way that we know society is. And I know some people may not agree about the patriarchal society, but I do believe that men, I mean, obviously we know the inequities, but like I was relaying to her this one situation that drives me crazy about, I'll promote my podcast or I'll do this and that, and I'll be excited just to get a couple likes or comments or shares, which again, all that stuff to some degree is superfluous. It's like whatever. But when you're trying to get listeners and you're trying to sell tickets, it matters. And then I'll see this one gentleman, I won't name, but like he'll put something out there like super obvious, like, hey, everyone, it's raining out there. Don't forget your umbrella. Like like something ridiculously like, yeah, duh. And people will be like, oh my gosh, that's so right on. And it'll like all this attention. And I said, it's still this, even if we don't want to do it, we give more reverence or respect to men, and they just have that confidence more than women do. So I can understand, or I could just almost hear your sister, because that's a common thing with women, especially women who work, like, oh, I'm not doing enough. And it's like, sweetheart, I'm sure you're, and I don't mean sweetheart, I should say honey, sister, child, girlfriend, you're probably doing a great job, like you told
yeah,
her. And people need to be, I hope she really hears it when you tell her, you know what I mean? I hope she takes it in.
yeah, I think both of us in our own ways that really we took hits in 2024. So you know, I'm pretending like I'm climbing out. I mean, there's still days where I'm just like, this sucks. I'm not feeling it. But you know, you get through, you get through it. Um, and I know that, my sister is somebody who powers through. Like, I mean, like I power it, like she will like bulldoze through. And she's like me, she had a hard 2024, but she's crushing it. She's crushing
That's
it.
awesome. And I should ask, and I did see I had reached out to you and said, I really am sorry about your father, but let me say that again. But your mom, is she okay now? She's doing all right?
Yes, yes. My mom's good. My mom is good. Uh it was she had surgery. She was there for a day. She came home the next day. She had like a little bit of challenge, like they put a hole in the side of your head, so you're gonna have some uncomfortable pain there. You're gonna have some pressure in your jaw, things like that. But she's had knock on wood, she's had a clean bill of health now, and she's doing good. She's just everything is going in the positive direction with her, so that's good. um and yeah, I mean, it's everything has goods and bads, so I'm grateful that my mom is okay. You know I say this, and I say this with like, it's weird to say, but I'm grateful that my dad has gotten past his suffering and has moved on. I'm grateful for my stepmom. My stepmom, God bless that woman. She it so for people who don't know me, let me just give you this like a little bit of background. My dad had colon cancer. He and I know, Janine, you're about the colonoscopies. Like, I know
The
you're
one that
talking
I
about it.
didn't get yet that I'm still pissed about.
Dude, I made like an appointment. Like my doctor's like, oh, you got to make the appointment. So made the appointment. I could not get when my appointment is. I made it last May for the first week in March. They
Oh
are
wow.
so backed up. I'm like, are you joking? Like, I can't, like, I mean, thankfully I have no issue. I just have his family history. Um, I haven't had any problems, and knock on wood, I will not. But I'm like, I have to wait almost a year to get a colonoscopy. Like, are you joking? And it's not even it's the consultation or the colonoscopy.
Oh my gosh.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't even want to talk about it. But my dad, you know, he didn't go. And it was like one of those things where it was like just right, it was a polyp like right past the sphincter muscle. And so he didn't tell anybody. He did like radiation, whatever, and they're like, no, wait, we're gonna have to, take this out. And so he had it's called a J pouch. They like basically like take the intestine, they disconnect it, they reconnect it. And like it's not a part of the body. It's like like if you had like a pin put in your hip or something. It's something that like it works with the body, but it's not like a permanent thing per se. And he had it for 17 years. Like,
Mm.
he was cancer free, everything was good, but because this, was so close to the sphincter muscle, he would have like a hard time, like if he had to go to the bathroom, it would the not to get gross, but like it's kind of like a cement mixer. Like the wheel stops moving, but you still have like some residual. And after a while, like you don't want to deal with that. And he just had so much trouble with it. He was just like, you know what, I'm not gonna eat anymore. Not gonna eat. If you don't eat, you don't have to go to the bathroom. You don't have to go to the bathroom. Like you don't have to deal with it. But if you don't eat, you don't have energy, your muscles go into atrophy. Like there's a lot that happens. He was a completely sound mind. He just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So and my stepmom, like, she 17 years of like taking him to doctor's appointments, keeping on top of him, making sure he had like, the best, doctors, the best medical care. She would drive him into the city because like my dad didn't like to, my dad didn't like to leave the town, let alone like move into like a different borough. And so, she would drive him down and like, make sure he went to all of his appointments. And, she kept him alive. Like we would have lost him years ago. Um, and she sacrificed a lot to take care of him, like, she wanted to travel, she wanted to do things. And he was just like, no, I can't leave town. I gotta be here. I know where my bathroom is. So for Christmas, we actually, we got her like a passport case and a book of like all these different places that she can go travel and like some things to kind of like encourage her because, like we want her to go live and have like, her best life and, see her journey. So it'll be a good year. I feel like 2025 like is going to be positive for everybody. Like everyone's on the up. And I'm staying in that mindset. I'm living in my little bubble, right? Because outside it might be crazy, but I'm staying in the positive bubble.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, yes, as I said before, being informed, but there is absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, is I think it's needed and necessary to have that mindset because again, whose life are you living? Your own. So if you have that mindset, that's good for you. And I mean, you did, like you said, you had a rough 2024. Um, Let me ask you with the book, this was written obviously, I think, before your father had passed and your issues with your mom and everything. But is there anything in it that's heavy, or is it, I mean, I'm sure some of it's more reflective and contemplative, but are there any things, some chapters that are a little bit heavier than others?
Um, I I I did write a little bit about my dad. I threw in like one chapter and so my chapters are like no more than like 3 pages. Like they're really short. Like this is a very like short kind of brain droppings type writing. But there's like some themes and things like that. Uh and I try to keep most of it pretty positive. Um there are a few things like I have one essay where I reflect on like, some friendship losses. I have a essay um that actually was triggered by a young man who took his life in my town. And he was
Mm.
a son of a well-respected person in our town. And it triggered a lot of thoughts and feelings for me. So I share a little bit about, my perspective on things like that. I had talk about there's one essay that I talk about a couple of close people who've passed in my life that, made an impact. Um, and but they're not downers, at least not in my opinion. It's like there may be loss, and I truly believe like there may be loss, but there's always something positive that comes out of it. There's always something that you learn and you grow. And I feel that with like everything. Like, you know, um, I started going to church living here. My friend Samantha invited me, and it's like it's not like a Catholic church. Like I grew up Catholic and like stained glass windows and big stones and like the guilt, and it's like you got to shake hands with all the random people. Like that was the whole thing. But this is like I enjoy going. I like going. It's fun and people are really kind um and like I read the Bible this year. Like I like cover to cover. And I feel like, it's like, what does God want? Love him, love others. And some days that's really hard. Like there are days, I mean, we were talking before, like there are people I want to punch in the face. But you know what? They're the people who need our love the most, like we're all broken, but we all like everyone needs a little love. And maybe if we loved each other more, people wouldn't be the way they are. But um but I really feel that life is there's so many good things that outshine the bad. And if we just kind of focus on those things and focus on you know creating more of those things could be good.
Yeah.
Things could
No,
be-
I agree with you 100%. And I had said when I started the podcast earlier, the episode that, I've been in a tough place with the news this week. And I'm trying to find that balance, which let's face it, that's what life's about, right? That balance. And I freely admit, like, balance, I don't have it in my eating. My nutrition is not good. If I eat like 2 tomatoes in the week, I'm like, woo, I did something healthy. Or like 4 blueberries, I'm like, look at me go. And so I recognize, which sometimes I joke that that's worse. I'd rather be like, yeah, I'm good, but no, I see it and I'm not changing it. But balance is hard to strike, but we do need to work at it. And I just wanted to say, like, so yesterday for me, to your point, I mean, there is good. I always know, I think it's important for us to know what we need or where we can go for those things that we can always get, feed our soul, that could feel good. So when I was in that hole yesterday, I allowed myself to go to terrible places, like, what happens when the US currency drops. I'm like picturing, am I going to have military on my street, or, women going to have any value or any, I totally went down this rabbit hole, Handmaid's Tale kind of thing. And I'm like, I'm not getting any work done. I was staring at my computer. I had to do some errands anyway. I stopped at a park that I walk at sometimes. I walked for about 40 minutes, and there was a swing set, and I got on the swings, and I haven't been on a swing set in a while. Probably, I mean, I won't say since I was a kid. I mean, I've probably been on a couple times since. But first of all, I sat down and I'm like, oh Jesus, I can't fit my fat ass in this. And then I'm like, okay, all right, it's in there. And then I was swinging, and it just felt so good, just that swinging motion and the fresh air and seeing other people. And I'm one of those that likes to say, hi, how are you? Good afternoon, whatever. That, I'm not telling you it took things away, just like with my laughter yoga. You say it's not going to cure the problems, it doesn't take them away. But in those few moments, I was feeling joy and I felt better. I was able to go home and get some work done. So, yeah, we absolutely need to do that. And you're right, there are still wonderful things out there, beautiful sunsets, beautiful sunrises, all that stuff. There's no reason why we can't appreciate it. No one's taking that from us.
It's true. It's all about perspective. It's all about the lens that you see the world through. So like if you want to see the dark and the bad and like you want to focus on that, you're going to just get more of that. So like, you know, when I see horrible things on the news, like, yeah, no, I don't want that. No one wants that. But we have to find a way to, find joy in other places. So like I'll call and I'll FaceTime my nieces and be like, what are you doing? Like, yeah. And like, Aunt having a day. What's going on? And they just, they laugh and they dance and it's like, why can't I have that mindset? Like, why can't I just do a dance party in the middle of my living room with Cuff and, live in that joy? And I think, that's what we need. I think we are we tend to focus so much on like what's next, rather than just being like, I'm here right now and I'm having this wonderful conversation with you and like, it's a great day. And like, yeah, it was like, 20 degrees out and my driveway is all ice and I almost busted my ass when I out to the chiropractor this afternoon. But you know what? Out in the middle of the day. So, like there's there's I have a poster, it's actually in my office, and it says, not every day is good, but there's something good in every day. And so it's finding that needle in the haystack, because some days it feels like that, but there's something. There's something. Like I went to the nail salon a couple weeks ago and I was just sitting there and there was a woman there and her daughter was there and she was playing with Barbies and she'd like knocked over the Barbies and I was like helping her clean them up. The mom paid for my nails. And I was like, what do she was like, you were kind to my daughter. And I'm like, I was just being a human. Like that was just like it was just, but she just wanted to pay it forward. Like she just, thank you for being nice to my kid. Here, let me pay for your nails. And it was like it took me by surprise. I'm like, oh, like I need to go out and do something nice for other people. Like you want to create that ripple in the universe. That's the type of ripples we should be making.
Yeah.
Positive waves.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you didn't do it for any reason. You were just, like you said, being human, helping out. But how lovely that she saw that and recognized it as something that she appreciated and showed her appreciation for you. And I think We need to share more of those kind of stories, and because again, they are still out there. I'll admit myself, I get in the car, and I just had this conversation earlier, and I was listening to a podcast this week, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm doing a technique and I didn't even know it. I'm in the car 5 minutes and my attitude goes south. I'm like, oh, look at this guy, I guess he doesn't need to stop at stop signs. And I will talk to myself anymore, and it's and I'll say, Janine, you are not going down that rabbit hole. Stop it. And it works. I'm not telling you I don't do it again 2 hours later, but we have to remind ourselves, like, yo, you're not going down that path, because it could easily go south. But to do the good stuff, the happy moments, to connect with people, and then, like you said, pay it forward so that we can keep that ripple effect going. I think that's great.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
are you
And
are
it,
you
we
relating to that? I'm sorry. My driving.
I'm like, I mean, I've driven, all over New York, and I've driven on the LIE, which is like the worst ever. Um, but I have never seen driving like the Capital Region. Like it is ridiculous. Like it should be called Albany Slide. It's like they from the fast lane all the way out to the exit, and I'm just like I live like right where like a couple of like major highways like meet, and I'm just like, and I'm saying to myself, I'm like, is it me, or is it like that they don't realize that these highways are like what is going on? It's like the worst. And like I asked like a couple of my friends who are like, no, 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 it's just how it is here. And I'm like, see, this is crazy. Yeah, yeah. And I just get in the car, and like the trucker in me just starts spewing all
The
the
mouth. Yep.
profanity. Like I have the worst mouth. Like I've been really good at here. I'm really trying to clean it up because like as the children are getting older, like I realize that they listen to me. And so like I don't like I really try hard not to like drop F-bombs, and I'm just trying to like, be a better person. And my book, like with editing, like you can take out the F-bombs, even though there might be like a 10,000 of them I wanted to drop in there. So that's a nice thing. But yeah, I have, but when I'm in the car, it's like the worst. Like the worst. Like I'll be on the phone, like, and I'm like, I can't talk to you. I have to go. I can't talk to you and like drive with this shenanigans going on.
The
Um,
shenanigans. Yeah.
it's crazy. It is so crazy. Um, but yeah, like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, as life is a highway, that's how it started. So as we start to wrap up here, so everyone listening, February 25th, did I miss my exit? Did I get it right this time? Okay.
Sick.
Where can we send people to check this out? I think it's going to be a fun read, and obviously you have fun stories, and I know people will enjoy it. Where can they get it?
So it's going to be available on Amazon. I'm self-publishing through Kindle Digital Publishing, and I highly recommend if anyone out there has, something on their heart, like a story that they want to share, look into this. And, part of me is like, I don't want to give Jeff Bezos any more of my money. But at the same time, this platform gives people a chance to, put their art out there, and get in front of audiences that they wouldn't normally have been able to if they had gone through like traditional publishing. Um, so it's going to be on ebook and an actual paperback. I got a free copy, just check for edits and stuff. And I'm sure I'm I I was at church. I had asked somebody if they could help me edit, and I was supposed to meet her, and like she canceled like second or third time that it fell through. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, God, like, am I not supposed to do this? Like, can't seem to get help, and like, what's going on? And this woman who I had become friends with at church sat down next to me, and we were just chatting, and we were because my church has all these different themes, and so they had this theme of wingman, and they were like playing like the Top Gun music, and she sat down next to me, and she's like, "Oh, I love Top Gun, like it's like my go-to movie, you know." And we were started talking about like 80s movies, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm like mine's Back to the Future. I love Back to the Future," and I'm like, "I actually wrote about it in my book." And she's like, "You have a book?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "I'm actually looking for someone to edit it." She's like, "I can do it for you." And she like, she like, "Here, email it to me." And she did. She did it. She edited the whole thing for me. And then of course, like after she edited it, like it was like, tweaking things and like, so I'm sure there's still like typos that exist. And because I'm human, not perfect, I don't have a score of copywriters who are like checking my work and whatnot. And I might even be sued. Who knows? Um, you know what? I
No.
I put it I put it out into the universe because I always said I wanted to write a book, and now I did. So, and it's fun. It's you'll chuckle. You might start thinking about things in a different way, and hopefully you like it. So, and like I said, it's gonna be on Amazon. If you want to connect, like I have a little mini landing page, christinesouza.com. People can go there. Um, I don't know when you're airing the episode, but if you go there now, you can get an advanced essay. It's the essay I wrote about my dad, which is it's a little heavy. It's not super heavy, just it's a little sad, but it's I got some good reviews. My sister cried, and my mom cried.
Oh.
My mom cried, which is a big deal. Um, so, but yeah, it's good. I think people will enjoy it. I hope they do. I hope they
Good.
do.
Well, and it's a great month. We're near Valentine's, and not that you can't obviously, but like thinking of loved ones. I love that the essay about your dad, obviously, something that kind of like plays on the heart a little bit, but that's a good thing. So I will put in the show notes, christinesouza.com, the landing page you have there, and Amazon. Remember, you can get it on Amazon as of February 25th, right? So and they can order a hard copy from there too, or is it just the digital?
Yeah, so they can order a paperback copy, or they can order the ebook.
Okay, or the ebook. Great. That's fantastic. And I know I've had my friend Tina Gallagher, who has published his romance books. She has been on a couple times, and her whole crew, like that she is with, I know all about from her talking to me, but indie publishers, it's a big thing. So if you do want to make your dreams come true writing a book, you can do it. There's, the only one stopping you is you. And I know that sounds corny and cheesy because it's hard work, but that's it. And I know from her talking and getting to know some of the folks that she works with on different things. They're very supportive, and there are groups out there on Facebook and different places that you can even on TikTok. They have Book Hub, or I think it's called that, or Book Talk. That's it. And getting recommendations, or even getting sharing knowledge and information from one author to another. So it's what I just want to say is that it's not like the old days where you had to get like Doubleday or whoever, like, which is really hard.
Mhm.
You can do it yourself now, and why not? You know what I mean? And it's not like you have to go with the goal of a bestseller. How about the goal of getting your words in print and published and having people read them, and that's the ripple effect, like we were talking about. Get that good stuff out there and someone appreciates it, so that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. I actually my good friend Tamani, she just wrote a book too, and she found an independent publisher here in Troy and was able to get it out, and she did some book signings, and she's getting a lot of traction. It's a good book. It's a romance. It's a little naughty, but
Oh, a little naughty. Yeah, that's how Tina's are, a little bit naughty. Yeah.
little naughty.
Very cool.
Um,
Well, thank you so much again for your time, Christine. It was so nice catching up. I do follow you on social, so I do see Cuff and all the stuff some of the stuff that's going on, and your beautiful little nieces that you seem to have so much fun with, which is great. But thank
oh
you
yeah.
again for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always fun.
Absolutely. So, folks listening again, check out my show notes, christinesouza.com, and check out Amazon on February 25th to get Did I Miss My Exit? I got it right this time. And for everyone listening, I am going to be sharing because I'm going to read this. I did start, reading a few pages, but I'll admit honestly, when I started, it was the other night when I was in my little panic when I was staying awake. and I opened it up without, like, I had my readers on. I'm trying to read it on my iPhone, the PDF, and I'm like, I read like a page and I'm like, this isn't going to go too well. And then I read a couple pages today on my laptop. So, but I will be reading it, and I hope you do too, everyone listening. And stay tuned. Of course, every week, what I won't tell you what I used to do. I'd be like, oh, next week I'm going to have blah blah blah. I will tell you this year, it's not that it's been a struggle thinking of people, because every week I want to, showcase a different woman and have you get informed and inspired and entertained. There's a plethora of women out there, and many that I'm trying to connect with, but it's been a little challenging with people's schedules. I will have someone on from our local maternal and family health, because given the current administration and things that may change with funding and women's health, I wanted to have someone on to talk to us. Now, of course, the person I'm having on is in charge of the local one here in northeastern Pennsylvania, but hopefully she can share some perspective and insight from her point of view there as the executive director of the challenges they're facing, how you can help, or maybe even someone who does need help from their services, what that's like. So those are some things coming up in the weeks ahead. Check out the show notes to learn a little bit about my sponsors. And of course, you heard the opening sponsorship message, but Budget Through Life, Reinvented Threads, I have their links in there. And if you're interested in helping to support this content, because believe me, there is a lot of noise out there, but if you like this noise coming out of this mouth and you want to sponsor it, reach out to me. And hey, if you don't have a budget for that, you know what you can do? Share it. Tell a friend, a foe, or anyone you know, because you know what? There's plenty of other people sharing out those crazy memes with all the misspelled words and wrong grammar. So why not share about this podcast? I'd appreciate that. That would be great. So, as I always say every week, and I only had a couple mouthfuls of rosé. Let me rewind. As I say every week, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.